I think sometimes people get lost in a very generalized narrative of like, it's just hard. Well, what's hard? Like what in particular? Or I'm stressed all the time. Well, name the stress. And what is the root of that? If you tried similar things in the past and it's failed over and over and over again, it might be that you think you're doing something new, but really what you're doing is you're just kind of metaphorically moving the furniture around on the deck of the Titanic. When people want complete information, a no-risk decision, which isn't available, they can stay in paralysis for years. And it's so unnecessary. I would rather people make the wrong decision, make the wrong bet, find out you didn't get what you're looking for, and then make another decision that's new. That will get you to where you want to go faster than staying in a place that you know won't deliver, or being so afraid of making the jump that you settle for despair. And I think this is the gift. As humans, we prefer the path of least resistance. We crave convenience, the payoff without the price. But when our lives revolve around comfort, it doesn't deliver. Living in perpetual comfort leaves us weak and asleep. This podcast is an invitation to flip that script, to choose the unlikely path, to get the life you really want through voluntary discomfort. This is Strong and Awake. I'm Dane Sanders.
We've talked a lot about options and decisions and decision fatigue. And I think underneath all that is the universal. We've got death, taxes, and decisions. There will be lots of decisions that we'll come up against in life, whether to stick with a relationship, whether to change jobs, whether to move. This decision is, do we stick with something? Maybe it's working, maybe it's not. Maybe there's something new, another path that we could go down. And there's about 1,000 different frameworks, decision-making tools. But I'd love to explore this question. Like, how do we make the best decision when we're considering something new or to stick with something that we're doing right now?
Yeah, I love that question because it isn't just how to make any decision. It's a particular scenario that you're in, and it's highly solvable, but it doesn't feel that way all the time. So the situation I'm hearing you describe, and tell me if I'm wrong, is you're in some status quo thing. There's something that's actually going on right now, and it's kind of working enough, but there's some sense of dissatisfaction or curiosity of like, could this other thing that you just heard about be just a little better, right? So people are dating with, and they, this is awful, but like you meet your girlfriend's sister, like, and you're like, awkward, but you get the point, right? Like there's a sense of like, there's other things out there that are competing for the solve on the problem you're trying to address. And let's also assume that people want to be integrous, right? They don't want to be duplicitous and give false impressions in multiple directions. But they're really at a point where they're like, I either need to stick with this thing and get it off the table, or I need to make the leap. And I need to decide if these other options or other considerations are worth entertaining. And this is something that I think because people don't have a clear process to walk through, they end up kind of stuck, almost like in a position of paralysis. And it's so unnecessary. There really is a very sustainable, provable way for you to go through a process, a sustainable, provable, I don't know quite the right words, replicable way, like a process that you can learn and use over and over and over again to figure out if this new thing is for you or not. Annie Duke, which she talks a lot about as a professional poker player, is that all decision-making are bets that we're making. And we don't know for sure on the outcome. And there's oftentimes we think we have to either know for certain that something's going to happen, and knowing for certain it almost never is available to us. Almost always. We're making decisions with incomplete data. And then sometimes we make up stuff that isn't true. But what we want to do is have a process where we can illuminate what we do know, what is available to us, and to get a sense in our conscience as to whether or not we have belief that something might make more sense than something else. And we always have the incumbent, right? The status quo, whatever is currently going on. And then we have these other solutions. And the quote that I use almost in every conversation I'm in, the Kierkegaard quote of man finds the level of despair he can tolerate and calls it happiness, that's status quo. And the question is, do we want an upgrade? Now, we could stay and upgrade with whatever we're doing. That's a different conversation. The thing we want to address today is, when do we leave? We could have that Should I stay or should I go now? Like in the backdrop right now. Like this is the reason that song has stood the test of time is because this is a question that humans have been up against over and over and over again. Should I stay with what I have or should I go to something new? And probably it'd be helpful for folks at home to have something in mind. And I have a hunch, even as I'm saying these words, there's something present that's coming to mind right now. A job, a relationship, a geographical location of where you're living, whether or not to, go on that epic vacation or not, whether or not to buy that thing or save your money, whether to rent or to purchase. Like there's so many considerations. And again, with imperfect data, you got to make a decision because even if you stay with what you got, that's a decision. That's a bet. So what we're interested in today is talking about a process by which you can get the right variables on the table, take a hard look at them, and make a call. And I'm hopeful that as folks do that, they can see making the hard call, the uncomfortable call, will probably serve you. Now, that said, this is not a fixed thing. The uncomfortable call might be to stay. The uncomfortable call might be to jump. But there's probably something that's a little discomforting that we want to illuminate. And that's not the default, but with this other information, I think it'll help you see a path forward. Because if you're invited in your conscience to make the hard choice, you need to have a case behind it. You need to have a story, a reason why you're making that call. And I think this process we're going to talk about today will really help you.
Yeah, I love that because it's important. I'm all for starting with the end in mind, but also getting super clear on where you're at now, the status quo, is equally as important because, like you're saying, staying is a decision. It's still a proactive choice. Can we start with that? Like, what is your current status, the status quo?
Yeah, I mean, this is whatever is, like, one way to look at it is, what are you thinking about leaving, right? You're in a job, you get paid money, you have been at that job for some time. You've been doing certain skills for some time. I'm in a conversation with a friend of mine now. There's a really high level kind of executive role at a really significant organization. And he is up against some serious questions about if he stays, what's going to be asked of him. And if he leaves, what will that mean? And I think that's what's great is this individual has a very transparent, real conversation going where things are out in the open and all parties are wrestling through the dynamics. And what I love about those moments, even though they can be fierce in their nature, by being courageous and getting things on the table, it gives the greatest likelihood that everyone's going to get what they want. And that's what we want, right? Like when people talk about like win-win situations, or if you're Michael Scott, win-win-win, or whatever. But like we want at the least know what you want, and that is even hard for people. So regardless of what you want, you have what you have. So status quo is what you have, and I think it's worth, if you're going to pull out a piece of paper and write it down, like what I have is a job, what I have is a house, what I have is a relationship, what I have is a local CrossFit gym that you go to, and you're thinking about going to another one. A declared major in college. Like, do I go from biology to communications? The big leap to humanities because organic chem is a little hard. Whatever the thing is, you get to decide. And I think if you can establish plot point A and write it down, it'll help you, because that's just telling you your starting point. And we're going to have a process, like the next set of steps will help people identify with plot point A is status quo. Plot point B is, what do they think they want that they're not getting? Right. So if you picture like a big, I love, there's a really resourceful book around marketing that talks about this very nature. My friend Billy Broaz and Tiago Forte wrote this great little book called Simple Marketing for Smart People. And they talk about this dynamic of like, if you're going to try to enroll somebody in a new thing, you talk about their terrible land that they're in right now in contrast with across the bridge to the promised land of where they would like to go. And pointing to those things is really helpful because you're talking about where you're at, and it's a before and after picture. Like, what do you have right now? Take a picture of yourself and then envision a different reality. And what could that be? Now, what we're not doing in this exercise is trying to market people to go do something. What we're trying, even though those plot points are very helpful in the way that Tiago and Billy talk about it, what we are doing is trying to get clear on the contrast of what you have and what you wish you had. And that alone can create a weird tension. And it can create motivation. Like, oh, I really don't like what I have. And the grass is always greener idea is like, will that come true? But back to Annie and her insights, you don't know if you're going to get to the promised land. You don't know if that grass is as green as you think it is until you get there. So plot point B is a little fictional right now. And it's important to recognize that. Some people have a personality where I'm one of these guys where I'm like, it's going to be amazing. Everything's going to be amazing. Make the leap, figure it out. But there's other folks that are a little bit more Eeyore-ish. They're like, it's going to be awful. I'm going to get there and it's going to suck. I'm going to wish I didn't leave. And I think both are personality driven. That's not the exercise we're in either. The exercise is just to get as ruthlessly clear on what you have and what's missing. What do you wish was there that isn't? And get clear on that. So that's step one. Where are you at with status quo?
Yeah. And I think the through line through all of this is bringing that greater clarity to it. Because oftentimes we can come to a decision and feel completely frozen because we're not really clear on
right.
what we have, what we want, or anything in between, which we're going to talk about. And if anything, there isn't like an always do this or always do that.
That's right.
Like, it very much depends on your situation, your scenario, and
the season you're in.
The one thing we can equip you with is at least getting super clear on that reality.
Yeah.
So you can make the most informed.
Forgive me, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got excited.
No, you're fine.
I love that you're pointing at this, Mitch, because I think sometimes people get lost in a very generalized narrative of like, it's just hard. Well, what's hard? Like, what in particular? Or I'm stressed all the time. Well, name the stress. Like, and what is the root of that? Are you sure that's connected to status quo, or is that connected to maybe your personality or something else? And I think getting to a granular level about what is so and what you wish was different is the beginning point, and just sets the table for the right kind of ingredients to make a good decision. Now, from there, I think if you can get clear on that kind of plot point A and plot point B, and they're in place, I think, and let's just let's keep like an example in mind for everyone as they're going. Like, let's go with a job. So you have a job and it pays you money and it kind of works and you've been at it for a while, but maybe as you're doing the exercise, you're realizing like, I'm not really growing at the pace that I would like to grow, or I'm curious how much value I would be in the marketplace compared to what I'm getting paid right now. Or maybe you're able to do the work, but there's some passion in your heart that you're just not able to access because of your current job description. All those things could count, right? And it's interesting. There's a vehicle by which you could potentially stay where you're at and make some requests in your current state and get those things. That might be a really quick way to find out if you're actually in tune with reality. And it might be that there's more available than you think. But let's just keep going. So if you have plot point A relative to, let's say, a job or anything, and you're considering plot point B, where there's another option out there, and you're trying to figure out, how do I make a strong decision? From there, we need to consider this next set of questions, which is, what have you tried before now? What have you tried before now? I know for me, I have ruined many a job in my life because I would daydream about, I'd love to do this and I'd love to do that. And I'd love to make my passion my thing. And I end up adding all these things outside of my world. And oftentimes I think it has to be in the employment category, but it's amazing to me how, if you can remove variables, like let's say that you have a job that's really hard, but you have a passion for something else. And you might discover like, well, if I don't have to get paid for that passion, I could do it for free. I don't need to have my job compete with that passion. I could actually do that on my weekends, or I could do that on my evenings, or I could kind of build some other mechanism in. And that's a really cool solution. but it still comes back to where are you at? Where do you want to be? And what have you tried historically? So in my case, what I've tried historically is I've jumped from job to job to job to try to find the elusive thing without going through this process of getting clear. And if I can think through that exercise, another exercise could be going to my boss and saying, could we make an accommodation for my job, or could my job evolve, or do you see a future for me in a different direction? All those could count. But in all cases, we're trying to think through what have we tried and the results we've gotten. And is there anything else that like we didn't really go all the way with it, or we didn't give it a wholehearted effort, I think are all really, really good exercises.
Yeah.
And the reason that's helpful, I think, is because of the third stage, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but, we've talked about this in past episodes, especially ones that we've recorded around New Year's or, decisions, New Year's resolutions, commitments, provisional commitments that we've made, and then kind of fallen off the rails. I think this exercise is so helpful, not just in these big life decisions, but even obviously in the smaller commitments and those moments themselves. And being honest about what has worked and what hasn't worked, I think is also an important factor in this, is that honesty with yourself.
Yeah. And that it is tough, right? When you consider all the options, all the things that you've tried in the past, if you tried similar things in the past and it's failed over and over and over again, it might be that you think you're doing something new, but really what you're doing is you're just kind of metaphorically moving the furniture around on the deck of the Titanic. It's like you can sit, it's still taking you in the direction, whether you move the furniture or not. And the leap might actually be in a whole different category. You might not need a new job. You actually might need something else that's new, and maybe a new attitude, maybe a new work ethic, maybe a new level of fitness, like in terms of how you're structuring, like eating and sleeping and hydration. And I'm not giving a nod to MWOD when I say this, but MWOD does serve a very practical purpose in a lot of people's lives because it helps them level up as professionals. They're able to show up at work very differently, show up for their family very differently, and so on. So regardless of where your source is for those kinds of inputs, it's really important to get clear on where you're at, where you want to go, and what have you tried in the past that didn't work, and why didn't it work? Mm-hmm. Why didn't it work? Was it because you were half-hearted? Was it because so you could, in that case, you could kind of adjust your effort. But another could be, it actually was the wrong key for the lock you're trying to open. And it's that thing was never built to open the thing that you're wanting to see happen. Right. Which I think is really resourceful, because now you can consider option, like the third step. And the third step is, what is it about this new thing that you're considering that is different? Why do you think this thing is going to change you? I can't tell you how many times I've said to my wife, I found it, the thing. This is so exciting. This program, this product, this whatever. And, again, with a nod to Billy and Tiago, there's a lot of things being sold to us with before and after pictures. We sell things with before and after pictures in MWOD. And we get it. Like, it's showing that contrast. You can do that with integrity, but it still has to be something that people at home are going like, yeah, this is new. I've not done this thing before. And to get clear on, like, what is the secret sauce of the thing that you're considering that is fundamentally different, that will be an unlock. Now, it could be timing or other things. All of those count, but oftentimes it's something that's built into the option you're considering that could make a big difference. So back to the job idea. You're in a situation, you have a job, status quo, you're considering another job. It's on the table. You got an offer. Maybe a recruiter called you up and said, hey, this company over here can give you 10 grand more for the same job. Well, you have to ask yourself the question, is money the thing that is dissatisfying? Or are you just going to find yourself in a new job, and after the $10,000 gets spent, which will happen quickly, you're going to still be in the same place, except for with less relational equity. Are you sure you want that in that new place? And this is where I think people make really foolish decisions, where they haven't thought through, well, what is it about that new job that actually is going to help them in the area they want, the thing they want to make like not just a title or a dollar amount, but like an environment that will foster the kind of trajectory and growth you want in your life. I think is far more resourceful. So again, plot point A, plot point B. Step one, what do you want is really the question. That's different than what you have. Two, what have you tried in the past that hasn't worked, hasn't got you what you're looking for in this category? And number three, what is it about this new option you're looking at that you think is worth betting on, that you think is worth putting your lifeline on the line? Like your time is your life. Are you sure you want to make that kind of leap in this moment? Like justify that kind of a decision based on a belief in the thing itself. What is new about that thing that isn't available in the things you've tried that is worth making a bet on?
And going through them in this order too is like really important, because thinking about your current status quo, like what do you want? What's your current life like? Gives you clarity and helps inform those, following steps. Like what have you tried that hasn't worked before? If you're looking and getting clarity on pattern recognition, even in what hasn't worked, is it because of that thing itself? Is it because of my attitude towards that thing? Is it because of how I was relating? Is it the season that I was in? Was I ill-equipped with certain, tools or resources or maturity? Like all of those things help you identify and almost put in categories these parts of this decision-making process to better inform what it is that next step is, whether to stay or to go. But if we consider all of those plot points up to this point, like what's the next step?
Yeah, I think it's just making a decision. It's making the bet. It's rolling the dice. And after you've gone through that process of understanding where you're at, where you want to go, what have you tried? Why do you think this is different? Now you're in a position where you can confidently say, I'm staying. Or you can confidently say, I'm making the leap. But every moment that you know you need to make the leap and you have this information in front of you, there's something inside you that's going to kind of gurgle, kind of bug you. That's going to be like, there's something and this is about our character, right? Our courage. Like once we see the data, it's probably time to either take the option off the table and stay where you're at, or take the option you're on and make the jump. And I have found that embodied action around these things, taking it off the table or making the jump, actually just opens up a whole new reality that like you're going to relate with the thing very differently. If you stay, you're going to relate very differently. If you leap, you're going to relate very differently with a sense of confidence that I think a lot of people are looking for. When people want complete information, like a no risk decision, which isn't available, they can stay in paralysis for years. Yeah. And it's so unnecessary. I would rather people make the wrong decision, make the wrong bet, find out you didn't get what you're looking for, and then make another decision that's new. That will get you to where you want to go faster than staying in a place that you know won't deliver, or being so afraid of making the jump that you settle for despair. And I think this is the gift. And going through the process of illuminating things and having a fair sense of what's in front of you, even if it's seasonal, even if you say, I'm not going to make the jump right now. I'm going to take that off the table for 3 months and then relook at it in 3 months. I think that's totally fair. And I've seen that happen so successfully with so many people. And it actually removes this cognitive load of like, I don't have to think about this right now. That decision's been made. Now I can be all here or be all there, but I'm not stuck in the middle. And as people practice this, it's a skill where you can just make better, faster, stronger bets and decisions over and over and over again. And we have found that it's probably, especially in MWOD, it's so really, this is why we created our application process the way we did, and why we talk so much about, hey, if you're thinking about MWOD, go fill out the app. Not because we think everyone's going to pick us, we literally say it's probably not for you. We say the process of answering those questions will really help you make a great decision to not do it or to do it.
Right.
And I think that is what will be life-giving for anyone. I wish more people would go to our website, take out the application, go through the application, steal the questions for something else they want to make a decision about. Mm-hmm. Go through that drill, do it. And don't ever sign up for MWOD. Well, that's fine. But at least you'll be making the moves in the direction of the thing that actually you want. And that's what we want for you. That we want you to get what you actually want. Because even if you get there and you discover, oh, I didn't want as much as I thought I did, well, now you have another chance to make another decision. Course correct. Go again. Make a new day one. What a golden moment that is. Even when you make the wrong turn. Especially when you make the wrong turn. Because we all make wrong turns. But you're going to get to the thing you actually want sooner by going through a steady process consistently like this.
Yeah. And especially I want to put a kind of point on what you're talking about of the weight of this decision fatigue, or waiting for this comprehensive, complete, no risk decision, which doesn't exist. People can get stuck in analysis paralysis forever. And we experience this in every moment. And again, another nod to MWOD, one of the reasons that we have such clear kind of prescriptions and parameters around participating is not because we want to lord something over you, but because we want to eliminate that decision fatigue. And so if people can't, I think it's Derek Sivers that said, it's either hell yes or hell no, or at least, popularize that. Like, that's what we want in any decision in your life. Like, it should be clear, and whether you choose forever it's off the table, or for this season it's off the table. We want that kind of clarity, and I hope these questions bring that kind of clarity to those decisions. And Dane, you teed it up so perfectly. I do think that the next step, or maybe the plot point D, E, or F, whatever we're on right now, would be just go apply to MWOD. Seriously, whether you want to do it or not, just applying. I think it's such a resource, and something that I think in this ever, increasingly chaotic and busy and, attention fractured world that we live in, we don't take the time to actually sit through and think through these things. So even that in and of itself as an exercise, like to sit with something, I think would be well worth your while. Did you have any last words?
Well, just a double dog dare. I mean, maybe even a triple dog dare. I know everyone at home has something. Should I stay or should I go? And to put yourself on the hook to at least write something down, go through a process, fill out an application, have a conversation. But these plot points, I think, or these steps, I think they really become powerful when you try them. So my double dog, triple dog dare would be that someone actually put them to work around a real thing in their real life today, right now. When the podcast is over, if you're in your car, you're on a run, stop, think, ask yourself these questions. Maybe you're home at dinner, talk about with somebody else. And this is what I'm thinking. Am I crazy? That's so resourceful. But it's only as resourceful as you put it to work. So that's my request, is that people take advantage of this gold, because it's transformed my life, my capacity. I can be paralyzed all the time out of not wanting to make the wrong decision. And what this has taught me is I'm actually empowered to make decisions really consistently, and they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger with everyone. And we just want that for those who are listening.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dane. And if anyone wants to check out the application, find out more about MWOD, just go to the links in the description and show notes, or visit MWOD.io, MWOD.io. Thanks, Dane.
/apply.
/apply. Yeah, if you want to go straight there.
Why waste any time?
/apply.
All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Dane. Take care.
Men and Women of Discomfort is our membership community, and we are open to everyone. But keep in mind, our tagline is, it's probably not for you. If we're wrong about that, or if you want to find out for yourself, You can find us at MWOD.io. The information and material that we're sharing, both of this podcast or anything connected to Men or Women of Discomfort or Flying S Incorporated, is all for general information purposes only. You should not rely on this material or information on this podcast as a basis for making any kind of decision. We do our best to keep everything up to date and correct, and we do a lot of due diligence, but the responsibility is on you to make sure that you're in sync with your own medical professionals, that you wouldn't see what we're offering here as somehow a warranty or representation in any kind, expressed or implied, about this being complete, accurate, reliable, suitable, or comprehensive in any kind of way. It's critical you own your agency, which is at the heart of everything we do at Men and Women of Discomfort. We invite you to take the input that we're offering and consider for yourself. And if it's helpful, please do take advantage of it. But if you do, it's you who is taking the opportunity, and we're assuming that you've done your due diligence with it. Thanks.